Hey folks, this is Brian. I got a Far Horizons, not really an update, more of a systems contemplation review. I mentioned, well, obviously, that we use RQ3 as our engine, and the GM and I have been discussing on and off about how do we convert space opera weapons and armor to Runequest 3. And I was thinking that was during, Christmas break time that we actually made some headway on this. But look at my files. We did this stuff back in September and October, or August and September, at least most of it. But anyway, so where do you start with? Well, RQ6 has a firearms supplement. I've got that. The Worlds of Wonder game box had two supplements. The supers had, handguns and M16s and stuff, and then the future world had, blaster pistols and that kind of thing, laser rifles and stuff. So plus concussion ones too, and obviously none of that built up. And then if you get the BRP book, the gold book, they've got a lot of that stuff in there as well. Then there's another game system called Other Suns that my buddy Ed has. So I had him scan me the pages on Armor and Combat to go through. So RQG, I don't remember how they do hit points. I want to say it's strength plus constitution, but I could be wrong on that. It could be just strength and size, rather. And our size and constitution divided by 2, like RQ3 did, but I'm not positive. I do know that Other Suns was strength or size plus constitution. So you're talking about twice as many hit points there. And they do some weird stuff with their damage. Then, well, BRP, we're all familiar with their mechanics there. So I'm laying all this stuff out. Okay, I've got a 45 caliber pistol, tech level 4, and BRP. I'll pull my other sheet up here. Hold on. And BRP, it does so much damage. And Runequest Firearms, it does so much damage. In Worlds of Wonder, it does so much damage. In Other Suns, it does so much damage. And I try to just, is there like an average kind of thing here, or how do we factor that stuff out? But before I got to this point, sorry, major roadblock. I was trying to take space opera combat and convert it to Runequest 3. Well, space opera combat, you've got a armor table and a weapons table to cross index that gives you a penetration value. So you're rolling, it's a D10. First you got to hit, then you roll a D10 for penetration. Certain weapons penetrate up to certain armor values automatically, and other ones you need to roll like a 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, and you can roll a 0 because it ranges, you subtract penetration. That kind of thing. And then if you did penetration, then you inflict damage. And if you inflict damage, let me pull that sheet back up. You inflict damage, you roll location, and then you roll severity. They got very light, moderate, and serious, and critical. And that's a D20. So I think I ran like an average off of that stuff. So if you're rolling a D20, a 1 or 2 is a light wound, which I equated somewhere to a D. Oh no, they do it. They have light wounds do so much damage. But their hit points in space opera are your physique plus your constitution plus your strength plus your weight divided by 10, all times 2.5. This is old school where you need to know math. And then For us with RQ3, it's size plus constitution divided in half. I'll have to get it later. Sorry, guys. And then I compared those, and roughly you've got just over a third, it's actually 0.4 hit points in RuneQuest 3 than you would in Space Opera. About 2.5. Space Opera has about 2.5 times as many hit points as RQ3 does. So I ended up just doing like a double kind of thing, I think. I'm not sure I had a D6 there, but so we get a very light wound does a D3 of damage in Space Opera. A light wound does a D6 plus 1. Oh no, 1 to 3 is the range. There we go. So it is a D6. So that's something else too. Oh shoot, sorry guys. Anyway, they had damage values associated with the light, very light, moderate, serious, and critical, all based on a D6. So very light was 1d6, and light is plus 1, moderate is plus 2, serious is plus 7, critical is plus 13. And that's based on your seriousness roll. The wound factor of the weapon has a modifier to the seriousness roll. For a Gauss rifle, it's plus 5. So with a Gauss rifle, the least severe wound you can inflict is a moderate, and half of the wounds you inflict will be critical. So just to get a feel for that kind of stuff. So I'm flushing through this stuff, trying to get a feel, and I did not get anywhere with that. All that work. I still have it though. So that's when I went on to, okay, RuneQuest Firearms says this, Worlds of Wonder says this, BRP says this, Other Sun says this. Now Other Sun has twice as many hit points, so I had to, divide the weapon damage in half or something like that. And then I just kind of looked at it and going, okay, is there like a middle ground here? Is there anything that makes sense? Or can I do like an average? And I came up with a number of different wound values. Now, obviously, not everything fit into a space opera weapon. For example, in space opera, you've got a 44 or 45 caliber revolver, you got a 22 caliber pistol, 30 caliber rifle, 30 caliber carbine, and no, those don't do the same damage, but they have them that way. You got a 30 caliber plus buffalo gun, you got the 500 express and 600 express, and you got your shotguns. Well, out of all of those, I could correlate damage from BRP to all of those except for the 22 caliber rifle and the 30 plus buffalo gun. So I just kind of looked at where that weapon was in the lineup and what damage for the weapon before, the weapon after, what's that wound factor, and kind of swag a value in there for that. Did run into an issue, and we haven't really discussed as much about shotguns and stuff. Tech level 1 to 4. Same thing with tech level 5 to 6. You don't have a 357 Magnum on BRP. Though you do in RuneQuest Firearms. And you got a Magnum pistol in Worlds of Wonder. So, there's a whole gambit of stuff going on. And then I'd swag, values in, basically a value before and value after kind of thing. For example, here's an example. Tech level 5 9mm submachine gun does a D8 of damage in BRP. 45 caliber submachine gun does D10 plus 2. Well, in Space Opera, there's this advanced 9mm submachine gun, which is tech level 6, and between higher tech level than the other two. So, what kind of value does that give? I give it a plus 2. Tech level 7 kinetics. A whole series of kinds of weapons. They have these gyro pistols and cone rifles. that are, I believe, zero-G weapons, no kickback kind of thing. And BRP, none of the game systems had those kinds of weapons. So I just had to take, their wound factor and just kind of swag something out of that. That was really kind of cool that I liked about RQ6 firearms is you have weapon or ammunition categories. For example, you got armor piercing and you got high explosive, right? Well, the Gauss rifle in Space Opera is a armor piercing, high explosive discarding sub. That's the kind of round it is, right? And I like the factor of the armor piercing. The weapon does so much damage. If you got an armor piercing round, then a factor of that, let's say half, is the penetration value. So for this example, I had a Gauss rifle doing a D12 plus 1 with an armor piercing value of 6. So if your armor absorbs up to 6, you just discard it, right? But if it's like 7, 8, or 9, it gets reduced by 6. And I really like that compared to like just throwing in extra damage in order to get through all the wet off of the armor. Really like that factor. And then high explosive. Well, that was a Gauss pistol, not Gauss rifle. Sorry. High explosive. They had a factor involved with that on that kind of weapon. And for my Gauss pistol, it turned out to be 2d6 an extra 2d6 damage from explosion. I really, really liked the way that worked out. I don't think the GM took that because after all the stuff I did, sharing with him, it's his world. He gets to decide. He came out with a list of weapons and armor and charts and stuff. He was working with me on feeling out how things would work, but that's the kind of thing. They got weird stuff like a tango pistol or a tango gun that are designed to shock you, right? They do a little bit of damage, but then it's a shock value, trying to overcome your constitution on resistance roll kind of thing. And so some of the stuff actually I thought turned out pretty well. And there's this weird thing called a CX2 slug gun. It's built into a fist. You pinch somebody, a round goes off, and yeah, it's weird. Getting into energy weapons. This is something that across systems you run into issues with, and ties into armor as well, because in Space Opera, you've got 3 categories of armor types. You've got missile. We got melee, missile, and energy weapons. That's the kind of 3 kind of numbers. Missile being more kinetic slug stuff rather than bows and arrows, but whatever. In Worlds of Wonder, you've got 3 types of armor protection against lasers, kinetics, and blasters. Those are 3 different kinds of energy interaction kind of stuff, right? And in Other Suns, it only had 2, kinetics and energy. But they had a couple of armor types in Other Suns which are designed to combat lasers. So it had a factor energy weapons in it. For instance, this number applies for lasers, kind of thing. But we didn't really worry that we used the different values from Space Opera and simply assigned a Runequest 3 absorption number to those. And we had in Space Opera, they've got archaic armor, chain and leather and plate and stuff that we just made a correlation and just spread it on out. It's kind of weird for things like shield belts and powered armor, this stuff that you should not be able to shoot through. But it's only got like 16 absorption, not 105. Let's see. And then here's another example of system mechanics issues with a flame rifle. BRP has a flame rifle in their armory, but Space Opera's got um, two nozzle controls, a narrow beam and a wide beam. Um, on top of that, you've got a pistol, you've got the rifle, and you've got a heavy flame, right? So, taking the flame rifle narrow beam, which is what's described in BRP, took that and kind of massaged it based again on this moon factor thing for the different values. Got a pretty hefty sheet here. And then I captured on the spreadsheet some or most of the ammunition factors or values, whatever, from Runequest 6 firearms. Ablating, which is armor, not weapons. Armor piercing, which is weapon. Cauterizing, which is type of weapon. Disintegrating, fragmentation. Frangibles, hollow points, incendiaries. Scatter, knockout, tranquilizing, all that kind of stuff, right? So I've worked all this stuff out. So that was pretty decent. I kind of liked it. I was satisfied with it. But the Gauss rifle from BRP is more like the Gauss rifle in Traveler, where it's more like a needle, not a 20 millimeter round coming down on you. So I can see how that wouldn't necessarily work out. Maybe some energy. That's the armor conversions we got. Do we have? Yeah, the Space Opera values for armor are all alphabetical. It starts at A being the highest and goes down to K being the lowest. So KJI worked out well, 1, 2, 3. We skip and go to 5, 6, 7, 8. Skip, go to 10. We skip to 12. Skip to 14. Skip to 16. I think that's how we ended up doing that. At least that's what I've got on my thing here. And part of this I pulled from my previous conversions because I run a sci-fi game based off of Runequest. That's based in a Traveler universe, but I use Runequest engine kind of thing. So I had some of these values already based upon the different kinds of armor that I had there. Okay, so that's some of the mechanics and run through that we did, trying to figure out how Runequest 3 type weapons damage and armor interaction would occur in the Space Opera universe. Hope it was helpful, or at least informative. Happy gaming.